tutorials, and the first one where I'll be talking. I'm a little bit nervous because of my accent, since it's not my native language. And also, I've been told I sound like the goon that works for a bad guy in a bad cartoon. So, apologies for that. So, today will be a quick video where we'll be making 4 different jugs in a simple way, and normally in a very quick way too. We'll see in how much time we do it. So we're going to start in Blender. You have the default cube, select it, press X, delete, and now we're going to add an object. I'm going to use mesh UV sphere. There you go. So at first we're just going to make the low poly one, and from there we are going to work to a high poly if you're into 3D printing. So the first 2 will be made for games, and then we'll work on those 2 or copies of those 2 in order to make printable ones. So for start we're going to press tab here. That brings us to edit mode, and we want to get a few flat surfaces so that our jugs can stand. Maybe go back to object mode first, yeah. And stretch the model out a bit, so it's more the size of a jug. There you go. Now press tab to go to edit mode, and from there, let's see, press shift Z to go to transparent mode, and we're going to select the bottom 3 layers. There you go. And since we pushed Shift Z for transparent mode, you can see when I turn it, all the vertices are selected. That's why we're actually doing this. And we're going to be removing a little bit more from the top. There you go. Oh. So Shift, Control, select. Actually, there you go. Let's restart. Let's take a little bit less from the bottom, and then the same from the top. We press X, and we'll be removing the vertices. So what we have now is a flat bottom and a flat top. Now, the problem here, you don't have to follow me in this, but if I press Shift Z and I look, I don't have a bottom here, so we want to make a face for that bottom underneath. So what we're doing here, Shift Z transparent mode, we're going to select the lower vertices and then press F, which will give it a face. Now, again, don't follow me back. So if we look here, now we have a face. Here, perfect. And that'll be the basis of our jugs or vases. Alright, so starting from there, let's go back to transparent mode. I'm just going to select for our first vase the top vertices, and I'm going to press E to extrude. Go up, 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 up. There you go. And we're going to make it a bit wider, so we're going to use the scale option and just press somewhere in the circle and drag it till it gets a little wider. Now, if we press Shift Z again, maybe go into object mode to look at it, that's our first low poly face or jug, which isn't that bad. You can see the squares here, but if you're using it for games, you can just shade smooth, and that's what you get. Of course, when you're going to be printing this, instead of using it for a game, you can't really do that, so we're going to go back to shade flat. I'll be looking into, or I'll be talking about how to make it printable and get a decent result out of it. But first, let's make our second base model. So what we're going to do now is right click and select duplicate objects. What that does is we get a duplicate. I'm going to let it stay at the center. So now I'm going to press here on that eye, which will make my first vase invisible. Sorry. Now for the second vase, we want a different top, not that color like we have here. So we're going to go back to edit mode, press tab, Shift Z, because that makes for a little less work, and we're going to select the top vertices, press X to delete the vertices, and we're back at our base model with the second sphere. Now Shift Z again to make it visible, pressing tab again, go to object mode. So for a different color, for a different object or a different face, we can just simply add mesh and go for a torus. There you go. We're going to put it on top of our vase. And now we're going to press scale again. And again, somewhere in the circle, do not hit the red or the blue one. If you do the blue one, you're just going to make it lower. Red, we'll just scale it like this, but then, like you see, the color is a bit too big. And if we go from side view, you see it doesn't help. So to make sure we have a nice and even distribution when we scale down, we'll just go and press in the circle and hop. Now if we look, there's a little space between, so the only thing we're going to do here is just put the color here. And there we should have our second vase. But of course, the two objects are not joined. There's two ways to do that. Use snap vertices, which I'm not going to get into today. What we're going to do now is make it nice and easy for ourselves and just select the color, select our jug, and you make sure that one of the two objects is light orange. That will be our main object. And now we're just going to press Ctrl J, which joins our two objects into one object. And there you go, you have two low poly jugs, which is the first one and the second one. Now, like I said, there's a problem here, and the problem is not so much for gaming, but if you want to be printing these kind of things for TTRPGs, first the squares are going to appear. Even if you press shade smooth, you're not going to be printing it like this smooth, but you're going to be printing it with all the squares. So what we're going to do for that is actually pretty easy. It requires some work, but not too much, definitely not for a model like a vase. So the first thing we're going to do is make it a little thicker too, because these fine lines here are going to be hell to print. So what we're going to do is select our object, then go to modifiers, add a modifier, generate, and then choose solidify. Now we're at 0.01, let's put it to 0.1. What you're seeing here is that our vase is looking a bit thicker, which is also required for the sculpting we're going to do later. Now, just go to that V mark, press it, and press apply. We're going to be doing the same with our sphere. So, add modifier, generate, solidify, (0.1) to the check mark, apply, and there you go. Our vase will be a bit thicker and printable. You could probably even, no, not probably, you're certainly going to be able to print this in filament. Now, to get rid of the squares for printing, again not for gaming, what we're going to do now is press tab, go back to edit mode, select all our vertices by pressing A. Now you press Ctrl E and select subdivide. And you see we have a little more vertices, making it less low poly. And we're going to add more, just to have a little bit. That should be enough. This will make sculpting go smoother. Okay, back to object mode, and we're going to do it with our second vase. Select it, press tab to go into edit mode, press A to select everything. Now Ctrl E, then choose subdivide, and again make sure we have a bit more vertices, or a lot more in that case. There you go. Now we're going to press tab again, and now we're going to go sculpting. Press sculpting, and we're going to go for our smooth brush. 50 pixels, let's go to 30. And yeah, to smoothen this over and make it look a bit more handmade or rustic, we're going to go to 0.35 instead of 0.7. There you go. What's going to happen now is we're just going to press or left click and keep it pressed down, and then just go over it. And you can be systematic about it, no problem. But you can also just freehand it. which will make it look a little bit more handmade. So if you still see some squares, it is because maybe you could add a little more vertices than what you added. But the little squares you're going to see here for printing aren't going to be seen. Especially if you're working for a tabletop, and these will be about half an inch, maybe not even half an inch. So we're just going all around here. And like I said, we're making it look a little bit more handmade. There you go. Now to make our brush a little smaller for the color, let's say take half 15 radius. Just going to zoom in, and then we're going to do the same like we did before for our color. And like I said, you still see some squares now, but when we zoom out or when you're going to be printing this, it's going to have a pretty decent result. Let's maybe get the rough edges a bit out here. There you go. You just want the lines out. And I'm going a little bit quick for this video, but like you see, it has some wear and tear. If you don't want that to have in your models, you can just be a little bit more careful when you smooth things over on the top. There you go, let's zoom out and see what it gives. And there you have, yeah, pretty nice rustic jug or vase. Of course, don't forget to do the inside, but for the sake of this video, to keep it short, I'm not going to. If you're printing anyways, I would just probably do the color. So now, let's go back to object mode. We have our first jug done. We're going to make this one invisible. Go back to our next sphere, and maybe just to show you, press A, Ctrl E, going to subdivide it a little bit more. There you go, that's a lot of vertices. You'll probably not need it, but it's nice to see the difference in results. Now, tab to go back to object mode, and actually no, we're going to scope mode right away. So we've got our smooth brush. Let's do the body first. 0.7 and 0.35 in strength should be perfect, but let's go back to 0.3 in pixels. Sorry, and 30 pixels. Yeah, there you go. And now you'll see there's a lot less small squares visible. And the only reason that happened is because we put a lot more vertices in it, making it not exactly low poly, so you're not going to be using this for gaming. But printing for tabletop games or anything else, this should make it a lot more helpful. So just make sure we make all sides, sorry. There you go. Just use the smooth brush for this, should be enough. Last side. Perfect. Now for the color we'll use a smaller radius. Let's try 10 pixels this time. Zoom in a little so we see what we are doing. And yeah, this is going to make it look more handmade, man-made, woman-made, whatever you want to call it. I think 2 more sides and we'll be done. Nice, there you go. Let's go back to edit mode. Sorry, object mode. Zoom out. And look at this beautiful looking vase, printable for your TTRPGs. If you are making your own, I'd say congratulations, you've made your first 2 vases. Now, say that we want some other variations. Let's say we can give them handles. Again, in object mode, we're going to add a torus, add mesh, select torus, and there we have a rather large torus. Let's split it up a bit and maybe, yeah, make sure we're not seeing our vase for now. There you go. Let's go to top side, press C, and we have top view. What we're going to be doing here, it's actually pretty easy. Go to edit mode. Now, Shift Z, again, to make it easier to select the vertices. You don't have to do this, but then you'll have to select them twice. And what we've done here is just select half of them, press X, delete vertices, and there you go. Press back to Shift C, That's our object. Now, what we have here is ears for our faces, handles. Press tab to go back to edit mode. And we're going to, if you press N, you're going to get into a mode here. And what we're going to be doing right now is just thinking this is the y-axis. Rotate 90 degrees. Yeah, perfect. And we're going to make one of our faces visible again. So you can see here, it's a little bit too big or way too big. So again, we're going to scale it to a smaller, more doable size. Now we're just going to move it in our vase. Yeah. Now we have one handle. What we want to do is we want to right click on it, duplicate objects, making it the second one. And we're going to rotate it 180 degrees, or maybe no. So what we're seeing here, the location on the y-axis here, we're just going to press this, add a minus. There you go, and it changed places. Now we can just rotate it around the z-axis, 180 degrees, and it's perfect placement, perfect mirrored placement. That's about it. Again, you'll need to join those two, so maybe duplicate the vase again. Select the handles, shift select the other handle, shift select the vase, Control J, and everything is one object. Now, within the space of a few minutes, we were able to make 3 different jugs, vases, whatever you want to call it. And you could have made a fourth if you put handles here too. I hope this was helpful. Make sure to like it if you did. And if you didn't, you can definitely comment on it. And I'll see if I will try and change whatever you didn't like, if my ego isn't too bruised. Thank you for joining. Thank you for listening. I hope it helped you. Bye.